story about, especially the cast of Hatchet 2, is I cast the movie before I actually wrote it. I already knew what all the parts were, but what I did is I had these like secret meetings at every scope where I would call each person in and say, hey, so, after like 10 minutes, I'd be like, we're gonna do a Hatchet sequel, but we don't want anybody to know. And I wrote each part for everybody, they're all friends. In fact, when Tony did the cameo in Hatchet 1, which I already knew that character was behind the stuff, he said, okay, yeah, I'll do this, but am I really coming back in the sequel? I'm like, yeah, actually, you're like the whole thing in the sequel. And he's like, I'll have more lines? Like, yeah, you'll have more lines. The whole backstory that we saw in this one, I knew beforehand, and I knew most of the elements of it, and actually John and I spoke at length about it, but didn't really talk about it with too many other people. The fact that Victor's mom was potentially black. If you go back and watch the first one, you can see a little bit of that in the makeup. The fact that he was born out of a voodoo curse, like those things were already there. But I felt like with the idea of this hopefully becoming a franchise and doing more things, I wanted to set the groundwork so that there was a place to go. Because nobody wanted to see another tour boat full of people break down and the same thing happens again. So this movie has a purpose and a reason, and in some ways there's actually much more of a story in this one than there was in the first one. And I would love it, whether I direct the third one or not, to see a franchise finally where the movies keep getting a little bit better. I think instead of the opposite, I think that would be kind of cool. If I could have it my way, I think we would wait a little bit, like we did with this one, because we got to go do some other things, like Corona. We got to go do Spiral. We produced a movie called Grace that Paul Solid directed. We did Frozen, and then we had like the hunger to come back and do this again. So ideally we'll wait a little bit, but I mean, I'm not really the one in charge of that. I don't know if I'll be the one at the helm. Maybe I'll pass the torch, maybe not.
I was scared to death. I hadn't been on to really do a scene since I worked for Dan Curtis in Winds of War, which was a huge miniseries. And I thought I was really doing well in the wide shots, and then Adam said close up and I couldn't remember a line. I mean, I was scared to death. Well, first thing I thought, well, I gotta look good, it's my close up. And then my mind went blank. And then Danielle is standing next to me, is really, really a total pro, and she took me into the scene. She established eye contact with me, and we started to work, and I got out of my own head. And then all the words were there suddenly. And she saved me, in other words, because she was so professional, and she'd seen that kind of fear in other actors' eyes.
I started getting like tons of like Twitters and emails and stuff, and maybe some of these people are even in this room saying, hey man, just watch Frozen, I loved it. And I'm thinking to myself after like the 70th one, Frozen isn't out yet. And so I started writing back, hey man, where'd you see it? And now like 90% of these people are smart enough to be like, oops, and stop. But the other 10%, oh man, I downloaded it, I stole it, I loved it, it's great. And I posted something on my Formspring page, because somebody had said, how do you feel about the fact that everybody's stealing your movie? 125,000 people stole Frozen over the course of a weekend. And this is something that affects all of us in this room that work in the industry. And I explained how awful that really is for us. As much as people think it's a victimless crime, especially when you're an independent movie like this, and like every ticket sale, every DVD, it means so much. And when that stuff gets out there and people are so entitled to take it, you know, that's its own problem. But the bigger issue was the fact that when I said, could you please not take my movie because you're stealing from me, the first comment I got back was, fuck you, you greedy Jew. This is the internet, folks. Don't you have enough money? Aren't you rich enough? Like, we only steal them because we love them. Another one was, I pay $60 a month for internet. You owe me this. And it was awful. But unfortunately, it got me in so much trouble, and I became like the Lars Ulrich of horror. Just by saying, please don't steal my movie. And then it got even worse, because a guy from New York Magazine interviewed me. He twisted my words all around, made it sound like I was slamming Edgar Bay, who I love for putting out my first 4 films and giving me the career that I have today. It was bad. It was really bad. But it is a problem, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if any of us do. If somebody has an answer, throw it out there. But I think one thing that we can all do as artists is start uploading fake files of your movie long before it comes out and just confuse the hell out of these guys. There's only so many times you can download gay porn or like my cat's litter box before you're just going to give up and be trying to get like proper distribution when you're not a remake, it's very, very hard, as like half this room can attest to right now. And I am by no means anti-remake. Some of my favorite films are remakes, like John Carpenter's The Thing, I still think is probably one of the greatest movies ever made. I love the Texas Chainsaw remake, I love the Dawn of the Dead remake. I mean, the list goes on and on, but something is wrong when Hollywood has now become so scared of original material. A lot of people like to blame Hollywood and they say, oh, they run out of ideas or they only do this and that. It's a business, so they do what makes money, and unfortunately, the original stuff gets like, the release this is going to have this weekend, whatever it is, like 70 screens or something, but a remake gets 3,000 screens and like $50 million, and then we all complain about it, and but we go see it.
Yeah, Derek is here, that's right. I have no problem with Derek. He did not take the part from me, he took it from someone else, which was great. Derek and I are friends, and we're going to beat your ass together.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. Please go see the movie again this weekend and try to bring 8,000 friends if you can. So much hinges on this unrated thing. Please, for all of us, please get out there and buy tickets. Thank you so much.